On March 10th of this year, the world received news of a surprising new geopolitical alignment in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia and Iran decided to re-establish diplomatic ties in a deal brokered by China, ending 7 years of estrangement between the two oil-producing giants. As Western powers have ceded influence in the Middle East and have focused their attention on the Russia-Ukraine war, a multipolar future is fast emerging as Asian economies and voices from the global south become more dominant. This Saudi-Iranian pact is also a vindication of the sort of foreign policy that India has been following, wherein a country's own interests are paramount and not dictated by any larger regional grouping.
I don't think we're sitting on the fence. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't make me sitting on the fence. It means I'm sitting on my ground.
We will continue to work with India to make sure that the interests of everybody are represented when we set the global agenda.
Come with us as we look deeper into the shifting world order, the geopolitics behind it, and India's role in this fast-changing world. The writing was on the wall. After the hasty retreat made by the United States from Afghanistan in 2021, countries across the world acknowledged that a tectonic shift had taken place with respect to global alignment. This realignment had already begun after the COVID-induced supply chain shocks. The sloppy, hasty withdrawal of a superpower from a country that was vulnerable to fanatics and drug overlords confirmed a shifting global geopolitical order. Countries now needed to look into a future where multipolarity is the mantra, and not siloed into groups that make little impact into the lives of their people.
If countries in Europe and the West and the United States are so concerned, why don't they allow Iranian oil to come into the market? Why don't they allow Venezuelan oil to come into the market? I mean, they've squeezed every other source of oil we have, and then say, okay, guys, you must not go into the market and get the best deal for your people. I don't think that's a very fair approach.
The new Saudi-Iran pact will mean less violence in the region. Iran will pledge to halt any attacks on Saudi Arabia, and in return, Saudi Arabia will reopen embassies in Iran. This is also a boon for Iran, as it reduces its international isolation and for greater peace in the Middle East region. It is critical to note that the Saudis went ahead with this deal, knowing that the United States and its allies have sanctions in place over Iran's civil nuclear program.
Saudi Arabia has its own considerations. Its relations with the US have come under some cloud, come into a bit of controversy due to a number of reasons. One is that the US has stated earlier that it wants to redeploy some of its forces from the Middle East to the Indo-Pacific because of its rivalry with China. Second is that there were some issues pertaining to the involvement of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Khashoggi murder. So there were some statements by people in the Biden administration which have not gone down well with him.
Saudi Arabia's decision to follow its own independent foreign policy is similar to India's approach. India has close links with countries like Russia and Iran, both under sanctions from the West.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
With the Russia-Ukraine war refusing to abate and the world lurching towards an economic contraction, it is critical for countries to have their own independent foreign policy that puts its people and pragmatic relationships with its neighbors first and foremost. The Saudi-Iran pact shows that the arc of influence of Western powers is not the same as it used to be. With the burgeoning growth of the Global South, voices that were part of a supporting act in the past are now finding themselves in a leading role. Multipolar groupings like the Brazil, Russia, India, and China, or BRICS nations as they are popularly called, are as important as the Quad grouping of India, Australia, Japan, and America. The one unifying thread in these groupings is the presence of India, evidence of a pragmatic foreign policy that is fast becoming a trend across the world.